I'm going to do it again. In the background is John Fonte Square in the Los Angeles Public Library at the base of Bunker Hill. John Fonte wrote the book Ask the Dust, which was about writers in Los Angeles in the 1920s and 30s, and described Bunker Hill really well. And it's a great book because you can imagine what Los Angeles was like 100 years ago, before it had become this huge city, but you still had all the dreamers and the writers and the movie people in the city. And it's a great book. And that square behind me is named after him. And I read the book recently. It reminded me of a character who I met while riding on the number 4 bus when I first returned to Los Angeles from Boston a couple of years back. I was on my way to the Echoplex from downtown Los Angeles. I was having my first show performing on a band slot at the Echoplex, opening for a band, Haunted Summer, who I was friends with. They had the residency there, and for me that was a really big deal because that was a huge rock and roll club where the Rolling Stones have played before going on tours. The 9 Inch Nails played their final show there a few years back before they had their reunion tour a couple years back afterwards. So it's like a real legit rock and roll club, and it was a really big show for me because I moved to Los Angeles to tell stories at the rock and roll venues. So I'm riding the bus on the 4, and I'm trying to get my head straight so that way I'll give my best performance, and I want to just find my meditative place. And as I get on the bus, there's this man who's really distracting, who's talking to the bus driver, and I take a seat in the front opposite the bus operator, and this man, as soon as the bus closes, he jumps in and he says, "So as I was saying," and he goes into this story, and he's really distinctive because he's wearing this dirty, wrinkled green suit with a red shirt and a Hawaiian tie with a hula dancer and a pineapple on it. And he has dark black comb-over hair that's dyed with like shoe polish, really unnaturally dark. And he has this mustache that's meticulously symmetrical, also with that same fake shoe polish mustache. And he has like dangling, like fake Rolex jewelry on his watch, on his wrist. And as he's talking, he does this kind of forward-backward clapping thing with his feet and his hands, usually off beat with each other. And so as he's talking, I follow him, and I can't follow my train of thought. And he's talking to the bus driver, who's kind of nodding in the mirror at him, about his experiences as a panhandler up on Bunker Hill. I don't think he's homeless, but he's definitely a panhandler because he's talking about panhandling on Bunker Hill. And he explains that he is the best panhandler at Bunker Hill because he wears a suit. And he approaches the lawyers and the bankers on Bunker Hill as if he's an equal. And he never asks for anything except for $100 bills. $100 bills, $50 bills, or $20 bills. He said, "I don't ask for dollars, I don't ask for coins, let the other guys grovel for the small bills, let them crawl into the gutters for the coins. I ask for hundreds, 50s, and 20s, and that's why I make more money than anyone else. If they want to give me a 10, they want to give me a 5, that's fine, but I only take hundreds, 50s, and 20s. That's what I ask for." And then as people would come on board, he would just like very politely say, "Excuse me," step back, kind of clap his hands, bide his time. As soon as the door would close and the bus would proceed, he'd go, "So as I was saying." And he's explaining to the bus driver that the other panhandlers refused to accept his method and his approach to their craft of asking for money from passersby. So he decided one day that he would challenge them to a bet in order to prove his point. He just said, "One day I reached in my pocket, I pulled out $49, and the rest of the guys, they had $5 combined. So I said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll challenge you 20 of my dollars versus your collective 5 that I can stop any person that walks by on this street, and I'll have them walk to the end of the corner and back, and they'll use my method, and they will make at least $20. in that walk back and forth. Otherwise, I will give you this $20 bill. But if that person makes it to the end of the street and back and earns that $20 using my method, I will take your $5 bill. And the other people said, are you kidding? That's a great deal. We will totally take you on that bet. And now we're reaching Echo Park where the club is, and I want to know how the story ends. And, and he's like, excuse me? And he's waiting. He's like, so as I was saying, and he jumps back into the story, and I know that he has to hurry with this story or I'm not going to get the end. And I know this guy is probably going to be riding this bus all the way to the beach, because there might not be an ending to the story. So he says, so I was in luck. The first guy who walked by was a young lawyer. And I wanted a young guy because young guys are always hungry and attorneys will do anything for money. So I explained the deal to him, and what I did was I said, no matter what, whether you make it down and back with the $20 or not, I will give you this $20. So you'll make $20 no matter what, and you get to keep whatever you make going down and back using my approach of asking for hundreds, 50s, and 20s. And he's like, oh my God, are you serious? I'll totally do that because I'll make $20 no matter what. And I'm a lawyer. I'll do anything for money. So I will do it. So the bet was on. And, but we're already passing the last stop in Echo Park at this point, and we're about to head into Silver Lake, and I have to get back to my show. And I'm really bummed because I want to know what happens because I make no money at my job, and if this approach works, that would represent a raise for me, and I have a suit. So it's always good to know an extra skill, especially tax-free. But I have to get off this bus because this guy's not going to end the story. So reluctantly, I hop off the bus, I race to the Echoplex, I do my show, I hang out, have a great time. But this guy, he's so unique in the story. I want to know what happens. I want to know if it works. I'm not going to see him at the Moth, and he's not going to come to a busted show. And I'm just bummed because I'm not going to find out if it works, and I'm going to have to wear a suit and just go down and try it out for myself. But then 5 hours later, at about 1:30, I get on the bus and continuing to my apartment in Koreatown, and it turns out it's the same bus driver. So I'm like, sweet, now I'll get to find out how the story ended. So I tell the bus driver, I'm like, sir, I got on this same bus about 5 hours ago, about 8 o'clock, and you were talking to a man, and he was telling you this story, and he was wearing a green suit and a red shirt and a Hawaiian tie with a pineapple and a hula dancer on it, and he had hair dyed like shoe polish, comb over, and this meticulously symmetrical mustache with the same shoe polish on that, and he wore jewelry that hung down, and he would kind of clap his hands and step forward and backward like this, off beat, and he would only ask for $100 bills, $50 bills, and $20 bills in front of the, in Bunker Hill, and he was the best panhandler, and he challenged all his friends to a bet that he could stop anyone to go to the end of the block and back and make $20, asking for hundreds, 50s, or 20s. Otherwise, he would lose the bet. And you know who I'm talking about, right? Because I got off the bus and I just want to know how it ended. Did he win the bet? You know who I'm talking about, right? And the bus driver turns to me and he says, I'd really like to help you, boss, but you gotta be more specific than that. I forgot. Bus drivers are the most patient people in the world, and they have way more patience than I'll ever have. And I always make sure to thank them at the end of every ride. And that's a wrap. Cool. I'm all done.